Hello, and welcome to the Love Your Work Life podcast. I'm your host, Elissa Shuck. Whether you're going for that next promotion, looking for a job, or making a career pivot, I'll teach you how to navigate it all so you can have the career you want. This is Love Your Work Life, episode 144. I don't know about you, but there's lots and lots of things that have happened in my career that I did not choose. I did not choose to be laid off. I did not choose to work for a narcissist. Most of the time, I didn't choose the teams that I was leading. I inherited them because I accepted a new position or got promoted into a new position. There's so much stuff that's going on that is out of our control, things we don't choose. Some of the things that we don't choose are happy accidents, as painter Bob Ross would say, and some things we don't choose feel like absolute train wrecks. I can think of a few things, and I'm sure you can too. Thinking about it from the job perspective, the longest position I ever had, the longest time I stayed with one company, I had several roles in that company, but my length of service in that company was just shy of 9 years. Another one, I think, was probably less than 6 months. To be perfectly honest, I've kind of blocked the whole thing out because I worked for someone who just yelled at all of us on a regular basis and for kind of no reason. And the turnover was so high that within 3 months, I was the senior employee, the office manager, the one doing payroll, believe it or not. I was perfectly capable, but that certainly wasn't the job I got hired for. Let's put it that way. And all of the things that happen in between the 6-month job and the 9-year job, there were lots and lots of ups and downs. Things that I would not choose. Things that anyone would say were happening to me without my consent. That's why I get so intrigued when I think about what Tony Robbins says, and that is life is happening for us, not to us. Now that can sound a little bit like, I'll just be blunt, a slap in the head. When you're in pain, when you just got fired, like I did at one of my roles at that 9-year company, it doesn't feel very good to think, well, what could I be looking for? What's happening for me in this situation? But once you get past the initial pain, and I do highly recommend that you respect yourself and honor your pain and grief when something like that happens. Honoring it and indulging it are two different things, my friends. Honor means that you respect yourself as a human being and you know that life happens and you're going to have painful moments, but you move on. You look for the next best thought you can have. That's what I mean by moving on. I don't mean like ignoring it and pretending it didn't happen. What I mean is looking for the next best thing you can think about. Look for the things that you can choose when so much feels like it's chaos and out of your control. Things that you did not choose. The reason this is so important is because, I'm going to steal some Tony Robbins words again, our decisions equal our destiny. I'm going to call them choices. Our choices determine our interpretation of the world and what happens to us and where we go from here, from the current moment and when bad things happen. These things that happen to us are circumstances. A circumstance is a fact, something that we can all observe and we all say, yes, this happened. You could look at it like things that are happening with the economy. You could look at it as a fact. I got demoted, fired from one role, had to seek another role inside the company. The fact I got laid off. Those circumstances exist. They are facts. And those facts are oftentimes uncomfortable, awkward, and even stressful. Lots of things have happened in my career that have stressed me out, and I'm sure you can relate. But I'm gonna go with another Tony Robbins quote here, and that is, stress doesn't come from the facts. Stress comes from the meaning that we give the facts. Think about that. Stress comes from the meaning we give the facts, from the thoughts that we have about the facts, about the circumstance, about the situation. That's why this is so important. The thing we have control over is what we choose. And those choices fall into 3 categories. What we choose to focus on in that moment, what we choose in terms of the meaning that we're giving it, and what we choose to do about it. Let's break those down one at a time. The choice of what we focus on. What we focus on activates our reticular activating system in our brain. That is the filtering system. What we choose to focus on, our brain is going to show us more of that. That's just brain physiology, my friends. When we choose to focus on the hurt, the pain, I talked about this in the podcast episode last week about setting it free. If we choose to focus on the rudeness of people in the grocery store, everywhere we go, whatever it is, if we choose to focus on that quality, we are going to see that everywhere we look. Our brain is just going to show us more of that because that is the way it works. Not to mention the fact that what we choose to focus on actually creates an emotion inside of us, a vibration inside of us. And you've heard me talk about this before. There was an experiment where there was a whole room of tuning forks in an empty auditorium, and they struck one of those tuning forks, and all of the rest of them started vibrating at the same frequency. What you focus on creates an energetic vibration. It's quantum physics. And when you're vibrating a negative emotion, you're just going to perpetuate that. You're just going to activate that in your environment. Don't do it. You're so much more valuable than that. Take control of what you can control. Choose what you focus on. The next choice that we have is the meaning that we give things. This is thought related. This is a choice about the narrative that we tell ourselves. When you lose your job, like I did several times, we can choose to believe that it's the end of something, or we can choose to believe it's the beginning of something. When the company that I was pretty much second in command of went out of business, my boss asked me to start a business with him, to co-found something with him. My friends, I had no idea how we were going to survive financially, what was going to happen, how long it was going to take to launch that business. But there was also something inside me that said I could go the traditional route here, or I could choose the meaning of that large company going out of business to mean a new beginning, to mean I have something different to offer, to chart a new path. We always get to choose the meaning we attach to things. The best book I've ever read on this subject is Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He created an entire psychological therapy around this idea of what meaning we are giving to the things that are happening around us and to us and for us. The third choice that we always have control over is our choice of what we're going to do about it. The choice of starting a new business or going the traditional route of looking for a job. I had to choose. What am I going to do about this? And I chose to run with a new business, and it was a wonderful, amazing adventure. Leading a team that doesn't have your back, you have a choice of what you're going to do about it. You can choose to look for ways to build those relationships. You can choose to look for ways to acknowledge what is going right. You can choose to invest in your leadership skills, in your communication skills, in your team building skills, so that you can overcome that obstacle. You can choose to pivot into a new industry if the one that you're in is draining the life out of you. We always get to choose what we're going to do. What literally just popped into my head here is an old movie called The Untouchables. It's from the 80s. It's about Elliot Ness and his team of people. And there's a scene in there with Sean Connery, and he grabs the hand of Kevin Costner, who plays Elliot Ness, and says, "What are you going to do?" The case was falling apart. Everything was going wrong. In that moment, my friends, we have a choice. What are we going to do? Are we going to move forward, or are we going to let these things take us out? I happen to believe that every single one of us has the capacity in those really, really tough moments, in those really, really disappointing moments, to choose to change, to choose the high road, to choose what comes next. I will end with this really fabulous quote by Stephen Covey. And here it is. I can change. I can live out of my imagination instead of my memory. I can tie myself to my limitless potential instead of my limiting past. You may feel like you have limitations in your life because of the circumstances that you've experienced. I've experienced them too. You can decide that those things are no longer limitations. The meaning that you give to those things isn't about the limitations. It's about the springboard for what came next. As I look at all the ups and downs of my career, I've got the stats. 3 layoffs, 1 demotion. If I stop the story right there, it sounds kind of limiting. It sounds kind of stressful. It sounds kind of awful. But I can tell you without reservation that I wouldn't be where I am today if those things hadn't happened. Because I chose what to focus on. I chose what meaning to give them. And my goodness, I chose what to do about it. Which in most of those cases was pull myself out of the rubble, believe in what I was capable of, and get out there and make something new happen. And there is nothing special about me. Every single one of you has that exact same power. So go out there and use it. Take control of what you can control and make some really, really good choices. Thanks, my friends. I'll talk to you again soon. If you like listening to this podcast, I invite you to visit my website at elissashuck-careercoach.com. On the site, you're going to find out everything you need to know about working with me on your career move, developing your leadership skills, as well as my courses, Job Search Field Guide, and The Art of Stellar Interviews. I look forward to meeting you soon. Take care.